Namaste, lads and ladies. Welcome back finally to another manga review. Today, ow, sorry about that, we are going to be doing Komi Cannot Communicate, Volume 7. Now, with this volume, things are picking up, figuratively and emotionally. Ow, fuck, that hurt. Sorry about that. Anyway, what I'm going to start off talking about with this volume is the ending. First, I'm not going to spoil too much, just the emphasis on what's going on, basically. Like the small subtle hints I will talk about, but not the big picture in general. You'll get what I mean in a minute. So, Tadano is sick. This is at the end of the book. I'll go over the rest of the book, don't worry. I just want to talk about the end because it's probably the most interesting out of a lot of it. The rest of it is mostly just comedic stuff, which I enjoy. But this is more like progressing the relationship between Tadano and Komi, basically. Tadano is sick, so he tries calling Najimi to bring him some fluids, electrolytes, and stuff like that. Because he's told his family not to worry about him, he's fine and all that. I'm like that in a certain sense. I don't want people to get sick around me if I do get ill. Luckily, I'm not ill most of the time, but a couple of weeks back, I was extremely ill. Like, I had a fever, and I threw up, so I didn't really feel like eating for the rest of the day. And that really sapped my energy. It's awful. I feel terrible when I'm sick, and I hate being sick. So, I called my family up and just told them to stay away, basically, because I don't want them getting ill or anything like that. So, Tadano basically called up Najimi and ended up calling the wrong number because Komi's voice gently came across the other end of the telephone. So he just told her, like, don't worry about it, I'll just call Najimi, like, in a very sickly voice. So it's funny how when you look at like writing and it's completely misspelled incorrectly, or they're not saying what you think they're saying, but you can tell what they're saying, you know what I mean? Like, it's like this bit here where he says, I have a cold, so hello Najimi, could you bring me some soap or electrolytes or something? Like, it doesn't sound like English, but you can read it even though it's out of order if it makes somewhat of a similar sentence, basically. It's very strange that. It's just how your brain works, basically. Anyway, he hears the doorbell ringing. He gets up very staggeringly, heading over to the door. And then, lo and behold, there's Komi, because he's called her and she's worried about him and wants to come over and take care of him. It's funny how, in most instances, she overthinks things, like a communication disorder makes her overthink certain things, or she can't, like, speak when she needs to, or when she wants to, basically. But when she needs to do things, like when it comes to Tadano at least, when it's Tadano, she doesn't need to question it. She just does it, basically. No embarrassments until the realization hits her, basically. Because there's a section after she's, like, cooked him some food and took care of him. She even went as far as going to feed him, and then he had to tell her that's a little bit embarrassing, don't you think? She looked at the food and then looked at him and then realised, oh god, yeah, there's your food, sorry. He then passes out in his bed. She goes to cover him up with his blanket and all that. She sees his hand sprawled out, and then she takes the opportunity to take her hand and place it in his. So wholesome, so lovely, absolutely fantastic to see something like that from her. It's progress, basically. Even though she looks around in the room, even though no one's in the room, it's just her and him. Don't know why she did that. I guess it's just for comedic value, but that's funny nonetheless, really. And then Najimi comes bursting in because obviously he called Najimi. He can clearly see, like, the air between the two, basically, and Komi's just trying to deny it by shaking her head left to right and centre constantly, looking like her head's going to fall off. That's the ending of the book. I'll cut back to the beginning. It's Christmas time, and she wants to grab some presents for her friends and all that, but she doesn't want to make it seem like they're too endearing or not good enough, basically. Because you ever done that for someone, like, you get them presents, and you don't want them to be like the run of the mill, like, oh, deodorant and aftershave, like, say if you're getting it for a man. sometimes a scarf, a piece of clothing is good enough, really. It's just the thought that counts, really. It doesn't matter what the gift is, really. You know, as long as it's not like deodorant or something like that, because I've gotten that so many times, I'm starting to question my family of whether or not if they think I smell or something, which isn't the case. I don't smell. You might see steam coming off on my head. That's just because I came in from a cycle. And don't worry, I've had a shower this morning, so I'm not completely filthy. Thank you very much. Thank you, family. Got enough deodorant. Thank you very much. But anyway, yes. She takes her brother. I think it's Shosuke. Yeah, I think it's Shosuke because her name is Shoko, I believe. Her name's Shoko Komi, or Komi Shoko, or something like that. And he's called Shosuke, I believe. Anyway, he's kind of antisocial, basically. He's not at the same degree of the communicative disorder that Komi is. I think he just prefers his own company, and he just prefers to not talk when he's able to. He can talk perfectly fine, really, when it comes to it. There's the section where he sees Komi pick up a scarf, and she cuddles it. And I think she's thinking about Tadano in this section, because I think that's the gift she gives him sooner or later. I haven't quite read up to volume 8 or 9 yet, but I think that's the case. I think she was planning to give the scarf to Tadano. And that's why she's sort of like blushing a bit. So anyway, later on they all go to this little Christmas party. She gives out gifts, and then she sends a very touching, lovely email to all of the family. That's quite sweet. It's what I used to do an awful lot. I used to send Christmas cards and birthday cards to people. I now do a thing where I sign their name in Elderfrufnik, which is or Elderfruftak, which is Old Norse, basically. It's their names. In my retrospective idea of what the Norse alphabet is, basically. So I assign different symbols to my family members based on their attributes, basically. So like, say, my niece Daisy, basically, I would take 3 for wisdom, because she's going to need an awful lot of wisdom as she grows up, basically. 1 for strength, because she's already a very strong young lady and a very good artist. And 1 for health, basically, because you can't get far in life without your health, basically. So that's a thing I like to do for my family members, really. I take their strongest and weakest attributes and put them together on their card, basically. They ask me, like, what's it about? I just say, oh, it's just because it's a cool name thing, because I don't want to have to explain the whole Elder Fruchtag thing, because if you have to explain something too much, then it loses its meaning, basically. It's best to let them figure out, like, why things were done that way, basically. So they then play something called the King game, where if you draw the longest, either the short, no, that's right, if you draw the longest straw, then you are the king, and if you draw the shortest straw, then you are the jester or something like that, or you're the servant or something like that. So basically 2 people play this game amongst God knows how many others. If one is the king, they have to decide then what the other one does, the other one with the shortest straw, basically. It ranges from an awful lot of things, like Yadai kind of wants Komi's address, even though she already has it, but she goes over the whole idea of like, oh, I didn't like ask her for it, she just sent it to me, so maybe I would like to get that done again, basically. You know, it's like asking someone out on a first date, you know, you only do that with your specific other at the one time. But then you think to yourself, oh, what if the other person wanted to ask you out for a first date? It's like overthinking and stuff like that. That's just Yadai being Yadai, basically, being a very obsessive yandere she is, basically. It goes over small little factors of the characters and their quirks. Like, there's this one girl who's quite... I don't know what the type is for, like, people that have their eyes closed all the time. There's, like, a thing for people like that. Like, there's like a saying, like, if they open their eyes, then you're in serious trouble. They're the types like that, but when their eyes are closed, they're very passive, very easygoing and stuff like that. Because she's got, like, this one King's degree where she doesn't even say her degree because she takes so long thinking about it. She's a very slow-speaking, easygoing lass that she can't think of a degree. There's like a high point where Komi basically just asks everyone, let's all just be friends, basically, and everyone's like swooning over her cuteness, bless her. And then Tadano is just the boring type where he's like, like you've got to rub my shoulders, and everyone's like, oh, really? Poor Tadano gets taken the piss out of in this so much. I mean, he's average at best, but that's the whole point. The authors made him average, so he balances out Komi basically in a certain sense, because Komi is already awesome, already a lovely lass, and Tadano is basically that bridge to help her express that within herself, basically. That's what partners should be between one another, basically. You should be expressing each other's strengths and improving each other's weaknesses, basically. Like, I know when I was younger, I had an awful lot of self-confidence issues, basically, but I've noticed that I'm not going to get self-confidence from a partner, and it wouldn't be fair if a partner of mine was there to boost my confidence all the time. And it's not really sought after to basically be in a slump all the time, basically. So I basically rallied myself together to get a little bit more confident in a certain sense. Even if it was false at first, it steadily grew into something where I'm able to like come online and talk with you guys and just review books like this all the time, really. It might seem simple, just pressing like a camera and all that, but to me it feels like I'm doing this kind of like as a way of improving in a certain way, basically. Not only am I giving you an honest and thoughtful review of a book, but I'm also improving my speech skills and stuff like that, and if I ever need to do them, basically. And it helps improve my confidence overall, really, when it comes to stuff like this. So that's the beauty of books, man. That's the beauty of books, that you get a little story, you get a little laugh, and sometimes you get a life lesson out of it, really. Especially when it comes to mangas, really, because I feel like mangas are the only ones that really delve into the slice of life aspect an awful lot. I mean, yeah, there are novels that really focus on like people's lives here and there, like when it comes to small instances and stuff like that. But sometimes there's always the trope of like, oh, there's got to be something going on. It can never be like, oh, we follow this relationship between this person and this person, and then they just have a happy life together. Something has to hit the fan. Someone has to die. Someone has to like cause a scene or something like that. It's understandable. It causes tension, but I think with manga, it's more comedic than anything. Like you'll see more books with comedy in manga than you would with drama. Although I guess it depends on the genre of book, basically. But yeah, it's just interesting, really, how different books can hit you in different ways, really. It's the same with a movie, really. You can only appreciate something depending on how you interact with it. Like with a book, you can imagine anything. But with a film, depending on if it's animated or if it's live action, you're limited to what you can produce, basically. So like with live action, that's why excuse me, that's why live action really sucks with anime and stuff like that, because in the real world we can only do so much, and like wire fu techniques and green screen aspects just look so bad. But when you animate something, it's more believable because it's in the realm of fiction, which is why Komi Can't Communicate has done so well so far on the anime aspect side of things, because it was so sought after and so longly like wanted that people were willing to accept it right away because it's in its anime format, basically. Because everybody else, like most of the other famous animes that came out at the time, were already out. They were already done and sorted. So now Komi Can't Communicate is out. Everyone has just flocked to it because it's like, wow, it's now in its animation form. It's the same thing with Arknights, really, because I played the game Arknights, which is like a tower defense game. It's been going for quite a while now, and finally now they've released the Prelude to Dawn anime teaser, which is basically, I think they're just rehashing small bits from the first and second, third chapter. I think all the way up until they get to Frost Nova, I think, and then they'll continue a second season after that if the review is good, basically. I was kind of hoping they would like delve more into the past of the Doctor and stuff like that, but yeah, it's interesting, really. At least we're getting an anime. I'm happy about that. Sorry, I'm talking about something else and not the book itself. Anyway, we then cut to a scene. I'm not going to go all over the book. I'm just going over small sections so you guys can read it and enjoy it, really, because I don't want to spoil too much for you. Anyway, we go to ice skating. I'm an avid ice skater myself, having nearly cracked 3 ribs myself doing a Superman on my first go. I've learned from that. Now I just scrape my bum on the ice now, which is fine. I think I've actually cut my hand open once getting ice off of the skate, which is stupid. Now I always do the cat's paw with my knuckle across it and never my open finger, because that is softer than my knuckles, basically. That can clean the ice better. Lesson learned, basically. It's the same with cooking. You always do the cat's paw when you're cutting vegetables and stuff like that. So, we cut to the ice rink because Tadano has invited the delinquent looking fella who just wants to be friends with Tadano and Komi and kind of like blossom their relationship together, basically. He can't skate. As soon as he gets on the ice, before he gets on the ice, he's very confident, very enigmatic. He's like, follow me, guys. And then as he gets on the ice, he like slips up and he's like stuck in this position. And it just like cuts to a screen where he's like, he can't skate. Neither can the others, really. And there's even like a small little segment where the author, bless their hearts, they like put in like a small section of an outline character, and it says the author didn't learn how to skate, but these 3 can. And it cuts to like Komi and Tadano, and I can't remember the chap's name, the delinquent fella. I'm so terrible with names, it's unbelievable. And yes, I might have gone over one scene where she goes to see her grandmother, and they go and like pay tribute to the New Year's, and they get like their fortunes and stuff like that. That I'm gonna leave up for you guys to read. As I've said, I don't like to give away everything in a book. I like to leave something in it so you guys have something to enjoy, basically. Because I hate that with reviews, like in movies when they tell you everything about the movie, and it just like takes away from the thing itself. You just want to hear if it's good or if it's watchable, basically, and if it's like got something that will attract you to it. And I don't want to like push you away from this book because it does have some very funny comedic aspects to it and some very touching moments in it as well. I will say that they excuse me. I will also say that Komi meets a new character. She's got a Kansai dialect, so she's got like it's kind of like what an American accent would sound like. It's very country, basically. Well, not really American. There's like different American accents, like there's different British accent. Let's just say it's very country sounding, basically. That's what the Kansai dialect is, basically. She seems like a lovely lass. She's in most of their classes together, basically, and she makes friends with her being a shrine maiden for the day to help out a mother's friend of a friend, basically. Help out their shrine, basically. The chap's name... Katai. His name's Katai. My apologies. Yeah, he kind of wants to get closer to Dano because Dano was the only one that sort of like treated him normally because he knew Katai back in the day, like either in kindergarten or high school. Or no, they're in high school. It might have been like primary or something like that, or nursery. I don't know the educational school systems in Japan very well. I don't know if they have like, if it goes from a kindergarten to primary to high school or so on and so forth. I know they have a high school, then they go straight to university or college depending, but before that, I don't know. It might be like the freshman senior thing, basically. Like, I know they have kohais and senpais and stuff like that, like there's first years, second years, and so on and so forth. I guess it works like that, basically. I'm not like a full knower of the educational system within Japanese culture, but I think it's roughly the same thing. It works the same way. So, yeah, it's the same thing really with Tadai and Katai, really. They seem like they'd be very good friends, like very misunderstood friends, but I think it would be quite an interesting one. Because there's like this one friend I had one time. His name was Dave. Lovely chap. He was a very big fella, a very huge person. So an awful lot of people were kind of taken aback by his size, really. Like, this was back when we were like 15, 16 in secondary school. He was a very tall lad. And the interesting thing with him is that he wasn't quiet. He was very, how do I put it? He was kind of not the class clown, but he was kind of vocal about things basically because he felt like getting any sort of attention was good enough if it meant he could interact with people. Because an awful lot of people avoided him, he kind of acted out a little bit when it came to certain things. And I just pulled him aside and I asked him, like, why? Are you okay, mate? Why do you do these things? Why do you, like, have the need to, like, act out the part of what people see you as? You don't need to do that. And he just kind of looked at me weird and then said, well, how else are people going to see me? And I said, well, mate, you don't rely on other people's validation. You just be yourself and then people will flock to you. People will attract themselves to the attributes that they like most about you. And if they don't like you, well then that's it. You can't change their way of thinking, basically. I've known him up to about college. I haven't really been in contact with him, unfortunately. I will say that's my fault on my end. I never really keep phone numbers of my elder friends, basically. I think I might have lost my contacts from my friends, so there's no way of really knowing where they are, basically. I know a couple of my friends are still living around Brighton, but a lot of the others have either moved on or they're working out of country, basically, which is good, really. And I'm hoping Dave found a good job and he's got somewhere nice. And he's actually got a few friends, really, because he was very misunderstood, I think. An awful lot of people tend to think that most giant people are either gentle or friendly, or sometimes just or sometimes avoidable as possible, basically, because of their stature. And it's unfortunate, really, because we would always get taken the piss out of when we stood next to each other. They'd be like, "Ah, oh, David and Goliath," and I'm like, "Fuck off," honestly. And he's like, "How can you just say fuck off?" And I'm like, "Well, he's taking the piss. I'm just taking the piss back. You know, loudmouth over there. Like, that's what you do, basically, in Britain. You banter with one another. That's how you get on, basically. You rim one another. Not like that. You rip into one another, I meant to say, not that." That's something completely different. But anyway, Katai and Dodano and Komi basically have a little ice skating adventure together. Well, I say adventure, it's just like a small slip and slide moment. Komi does like a small little spin in front of Dodano. I was expecting her to get on the ice and like bowl it, like really destroy on the ice, but she's just as awkward as everybody else. She kind of spins in front of Tadano and they just stand there looking at each other for about 5 minutes or so. And then they turn around embarrassed. And then what makes me laugh is that because he's so embarrassed, he just leaves her in the middle of the ice rink as he goes to check on Katai. As he falls over and Tadano has to catch Katai. They get up and then they go off skating with one another. I'm left there thinking to myself, he's just left Komi in the middle of the ice rink all by herself and she can't skate. So she's just standing there thinking, what do I do? What do I do? I'm all on my own. What do I do? I can't talk to Tadano because I'm embarrassed. I can't ask for Katai's help because he can't skate. What's going on? I'm stuck. You know, it's like small instances like that. They could have added that in to the book, like her like thinking, oh god, I'm stuck. What do I do? You know, I can't get out of here. But no, I think she's a little better than Katai and Tadano, so I think she'd be fine, really, with the whole ice rink incident, really. So that is going to come to the end of this We Cannot Communicate. It's been a long while since my last review. I can only apologise for that. I've been caught up on an awful lot of other things, other books, other little gaming aspects and stuff like that. I've got a nice little announcement. I've got a few games coming out for you guys. I really would like to get through Elden Ring as quickly as possible, so that way it's up on the channel, it's there for everybody to enjoy, and then I can take my time and bring out small little different games here and there, basically. I will say they're both multiplayer. Well, one of them is multiplayer, the other one is also single player, but also multiplayer. But I'll be focusing more on the single side of the story. I will be bringing up Bloodborne for you guys to enjoy because I want to get that on the channel, but it will not be like a continuation of Bloodborne all the way through. There will be some instances of other gameplays in there with Bloodborne. But most of you guys are mostly here either for my reviews or just to hear me rabbit as usual. So, with that, I appreciate every single one of you for stopping by and enjoying another review of our favourite waifu. And yeah, I will see you all in then whatever I do next around here. So, take care, my friends.